Hi, listeners. It's me, Erin Harris. Thanks for tuning in to episode 93 of Cell and Gene, the podcast. My guest for this episode is Christopher Choi, Ph.D. He's Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center's Senior Vice President, Industry Partnerships, Technical Director, GMP Facility, and their Associate Professor of Oncology. Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center is a renowned cancer center research and treatment facility located in Buffalo, New York. It was founded in 1898 by Roswell Park. He was a surgeon, and it was the first institution in the world to focus exclusively on cancer research. Chris talks to me about Roswell Park's Cell and Gene Therapy Hub in Buffalo, slated to open early this year. Chris and I also have a much broader discussion about manufacturing in cell and gene therapy. Prior to his role with Roswell, Chris spent time at CRISPR Therapeutics and at Kite before that, which you'll hear about because his roles there helped shape his current role at Roswell. We talk through the role of automation in manufacturing and what that needs to look like as the cell and gene therapy space evolves. This is a really great episode. Chris is an insightful resource on manufacturing. And before I let you get into the episode, please do reach out to me directly with topics you'd like us to explore on upcoming podcast episodes. I love hearing from you and what you'd like us to cover. And so I'm going to go ahead and include my email in the show notes. So feel free to reach out to me so we can talk about future episodes. All right, here's my conversation with Roswell Park's Chris Choi. Enjoy. Hey, Chris, welcome to Cell and Gene Podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, it continues to be at the forefront of cancer research and treatment and maintaining its status as a leading institution in the field of oncology. So what I'd like to hear from you would be to talk to us about Roswell Park's Cell and Gene Therapy Hub in Buffalo, New York, that's slated to open in early 2025. And so what I'm really looking to learn is, what should our listeners know about it? And what is your role specifically within the new hub?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So Roswell Park, we believe, is one of the first comprehensive cancer centers that existed. And so Roswell Park isn't a park, it's actually a person, a medical doctor in the 1800s. And it was named after him. And his real battle or his attempt to battle cancer. And so he got some money from the state or from the federal government to do that. So my role at Roswell Park is the Senior Vice President of Industry Partnerships, and I'm also Director and Head of our newly constructed GMP facility. And so the important part, I think the listeners should know, is that we believe here that cell therapy will be a significant part of our battle against cancer. The team here at Roswell, very productive researchers. We have the likes of Dr. Rainier Brengens, Dr. Marco Davila, Brian Betts, et cetera. And they've spent their whole career in CAR T and cell and gene therapy research. And so one of the reasons why I think the governor and this initiative of putting a cell and gene therapy hub in the state of New York, and we're the Western New York cell and gene therapy hub, and then there's another one by New York in Long Island. There's this, I don't know, have you heard of a term called the Valley of Death in the context of phase 1 clinical trials?
I have not. Could you explain it?
Yeah, so it refers to this critical and high-risk stage where promising preclinical research must transition to early stage clinical testing in humans. So it's commonly used to describe the gap between preclinical development and successful completion of phase 1 trials. So a lot of candidates, therapeutic candidates, fail, not because the science isn't promising, but because of financial or operational reasons. And so part of the reason why this hub exists is to help scientists bridge this gap by building an infrastructure to translate a scientist's idea into the clinic. And I think that term, commonly used is from bench to bedside.
Yes, makes sense. I want to talk a little bit about the focus on developing cell and gene therapies to attack solid tumors. So great news, obviously. Why the focus on solid tumors?
Yeah, so 90% of cancer-related deaths in the US are due to solid tumors. And, this is a huge area of need. And I think with liquid tumors, there's therapies that are out there, but the bulk or the majority of cancer deaths are solid tumors. And that's where we're focusing on next. And don't get me wrong, we are doing both. We are looking at everything, and we're looking at this as a modality or a battle against cancer. It's another tool or weapon. So again, solid tumors, liquid tumors we have a very diverse research group here, and so they're looking at everything.
Great, thank you. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I want to backtrack just a minute. Given your role in the manufacturing side of Roswell, and there's been a wonderfully important $98 million investment in the new cell and gene therapy manufacturing facility. From your perspective, how will that impact cancer research and treatment within Roswell?
Dr. Johnson and Dr. Brengens have been very successful in recruiting the best minds here at Roswell Park. And, it's funny, when I was in industry, I had worked with some of these researchers, and none of us were at Roswell at the time. So the fact that Dr. Johnson and Dr. Brengens they were able to get everybody here at the same time, it's really amazing. And so with a lot of these productive researchers and a lot of therapies that are out there, a lot of companies have IP that are licensed from these researchers here at Roswell, either when they were here at Roswell or another institute. So to build that infrastructure to allow them to get their ideas into the clinic and to overcome this valley of death, I think this 98 million is going to make huge strides. It's really going to help our scientists here, and not only at Roswell, but outside of Roswell that may want to do the same thing. We're going to be a resource for Western New York, as well as the country.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can't wait we'll be following you certainly along as you progress. Now, I want to talk a little bit about you personally and your experience. You have experience with CRISPR Therapeutics and Kite Pharma, and what lessons did you learn in your roles with those two extremely fantastic companies? What are you applying to your current role at Roswell Park?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I had a lot of roles while I was at Kite, from business operations to being a PD site head at one of the manufacturing sites. So one of the things that just business in general, it's really about communication, and it's really about identifying roles. I think as you go from ideation all the way to first in human, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of different groups that have to contribute, and the team has to work together to get an IND, or investigational new drug application approved. And so having that communication path and having that roles and responsibilities defined with the deliverables ahead of time really helps translate that idea into the clinic. And so, we use tools, just very common project management tools like RACES. We have Gantt charts, project managers, cross-functional teams. And, one of the lessons I learned is when you think that you're over communicating, really you're just communicating. So that's critical, I think, for any type of successful organization. And then the accountability, the roles and responsibilities part as well. There's a video that I like to show during one of my talks and sometimes lectures. Says, have you ever seen these NASCAR type races where they have people putting in new tires, putting in the gas?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is beautiful to see when I think years ago, if you were to ask, how long do you think it would take to, clean the windshields, change all your tires, and fill up a tank, they would say 20 seconds. But the record, I believe, today is around 2 seconds to do that. So that really shows when you have this coordinated effort to accomplish a goal, you can just get better and better. So communication, roles and responsibilities, I think are critical to successfully translating a scientist's idea into the clinic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Given your expertise in manufacturing, I want to get a broad picture of your thoughts on the following. You know, we're coming upon a new year, and no doubt, excuse me, the increasing role of automation and digital technologies continue to play a big part in cell and gene therapy manufacturing. What do you see 2025 looking at in terms of automation and digital technologies on manufacturing?
I think automation is I wouldn't say holy grail of manufacturing. Again, I think manufacturing for cell products is very different than large molecules or small molecules, because our starting material is a patient's cells. And so because of that, every patient, every starting material is going to be different. And so there's a lot of challenges in manufacturing that you wouldn't get in, for example, widgets or small molecules or large molecules. So how do you automate that, and how do you make the process as consistent as possible? When you go from early stage, you have that the safety stage where you're testing an idea to make sure that it's safe. With cell therapy, you're also looking at efficacy. And that's why a lot of these trials are phase 1/2A type trials. You're looking at safety and at efficacy as well. As you get to pivotal and as you get to commercial, it really transitions into, at least from a manufacturing perspective, it really transitions into how do you make this product consistently? How do you have control when you're making thousands, 10,000s of these cell therapy products? So to do that, automation is going to be key. And so there's a lot of companies that are working on equipment to automate. And again, ideally, you would put a patient's cells on a machine, you would push a button, everything will be done. And then at the end, you have a product and, it has your safety, quality, identity, purity, potency, and it's ready to go to put into a patient. And so we're not there quite yet. We're close. And there's, companies like Cytiva, Danaher, Miltenyi that make great equipment that we're using here and we have access to. But there's still a lot of work. So in the future, I think this is a huge area. And I think right now there's a lot of work to be done.
Certainly, certainly. Now, before I let you go, I would love to hear your advice. What would you say to the new and emerging biotech companies looking to commercialize their first product? Best practices, tips, steps. If you were talking to them, what advice do you have for them?
I think for manufacturing in terms of CMC, doing it right the first time, meaning that, if you're taking a quality by design approach to commercialization, having the correct risk assessments. And, when you use a quality by design approach, it does require more resources. I don't necessarily believe that it's going to take longer, but there has to be more effort in the front end, and that'll make your life a lot easier in the back end. So my advice to emerging biotech companies is, I know there's this rush to get signal, and there might be financial crunches when you're a startup company. But at the end of the day, you don't want to redo your work as you get to pivotal and as you get to your application, your market approval. So hire folks that understand quality by design, hire folks that understands not only the science in terms of the immunology, the biology, but also hire folks that understand engineering, statistics, and risks.
Great advice. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, that wraps up this episode featuring Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center's Dr. Christopher Choi. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.